The human condition desires freedom. I'm Nicole from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast. I have a background in business facilitation, strategic planning, and I walked away from all of that. I also worked in libertarian public policy for 14 years, and I learned that the government does not work, and you are not going to take a broken tool and fix problems with a broken tool. And the day I realized that, I had spent 14 years, or 12 years, I think, 12 or 13 years, trying to change policy, having little wins, and just watching the backslide. And it was terribly distressing because I realized I dedicated so much of my time and energy and not made very much money because I was putting it all into liberty. And I had accomplished nothing for anybody. And I realized freedom is a choice. And freedom is a choice you build into your life. And I had employees, and I had donors, and I had commitments, and I'm crying on my way to a trade show where I'm supposed to get people excited about learning how to market liberty. Come on, all the way in, guys. And I realized I needed to leave. And so, and I'm not recommending you do it this way when you build the life you choose. I just walked out. I contacted my employees, I sat them down, I said, I'm not going to take a salary for the rest of the year. I will go to any donor meeting you want me to go to. I will deliver any facilitated marketing session you want me to do. You now run the company. I will answer your questions, and you need to raise your salaries or we're going out of business. And a year later, we went out of business. Atlas shrugged. Yeah, that's what happened. And that was fine, because from that day forward, with zero income and no savings and some debt, stupid way to make this transition, but I did it anyway, because I was killing myself. I was developing a heart condition, which went away the day I made that decision. It's amazing how your emotions impact your physical health. No shit. They really do. Yeah. I sold duck games, and I did my podcast, which I'd already started, thank God. So I had a network, and I started doing more events, and I started building websites for people, and I wanted to do canning classes, and I sold coffee. And that first year, did I make much money? No. Did I go further in debt? A little bit. But you know why I didn't go back into debt really strongly? I had a deep pantry. I had enough toilet paper for a whole year. It became a game. How long until I have to actually go buy toilet paper? So rather than having the cycle of restocking my 6-month supply or 12-month supply of food, I just kept on keeping on. I grew the food on my homestead. I canned it. I used what I had till it was used up, and then if I really needed something, I bought it. And that pantry is what saved my bacon when I made that decision.
What year was that?
That was probably 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And that was the year I launched Holler Roast as a big thing. I did my Kickstarter at the end of that year, got my first commercial roaster, and from there on, it's all been just head to the ground, focus, and get it done. And I share that story with you before we jump into the presentation, because I know there are some of you out there right now, right on the cusp. Do I raise chickens? Do I build a commercial sewing business, John Lewis? What do I do? Do I want to give coaching, life coaching, whatever it is? Do I do body butters? Do I make goat milk soup? Goat milk soup. You know, when you get COVID, you get this brain fog, and that meant to be goat milk soap. I call it brain frog. Brain frog, ribbit. You may not know what your passion is, but if you try lots of things, you will find your passion. And you know where you can learn lots of things to try right now today? Right here. So, I started out this event yesterday. These are wrong notes. And I walked up to one of the medical guys, and I said, I need lidocaine. Come all the way in. By the way, You want to see me? You're behind me. Are you my introverts behind me?
Maybe.
You okay? Got it. I need to get my hands on some lidocaine, and somebody heard me say it, and they said, I might know where we can get some, but I can't talk about it right now. Okay, how many people know how to get lidocaine and they're not doctors? How many people know where you can buy moonshine? How many people have had moonshine, like the real kind, you know, the kind in the jar on the shelf?
Right.
How many people have always wanted to try moonshine and never tried it? Okay, how many people have had moonshine before? The smart people who understand how underground networks work, the people who want that moonshine just looked around at hands and they're like, I'm going to talk to that person later. That's underground networking. How does underground networking work the best? In person. That's why we're here today. And the reason that you want to have a good, strong underground network is that as tyranny goes up, as the authoritarians take over and try to manipulate every piece of our life and control and be able to shut down bank accounts of truckers who are protesting in Canada, because central banks are central control, right? As that happens, underground networks become more powerful and they become the lifeblood. When you look at communist countries, the Eastern Bloc, USSR, we all remember them, right? If you look at how people survived through times of shortages of food, through times when people were being targeted and dragged off to gulags, the way the people who survived was how? They knew a guy who could connect them with something. And the underground networks never go away. They just get quieter. When we have more freedom, the underground network's still there. Like-minded people want to help like-minded people. But when you think about the term underground networking, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Drugs, black market, dark web. Ooh. That's a fun place to go.
Right?
Don't use your actual computer. What about Harriet Tubman, Underground Railroad?
Yeah.
Yeah, think about that. The Underground Railroad was a huge underground network, and the amazing thing, and it underlines how people who are passionate about finding their own freedom will get that shit done or they will die. Under slavery, terrible things happened. Some slaves were treated rather well, right? Some slaves after slavery became servants, stayed with the same families. There were relationships there. From all walks of life under slavery, from the abusive relationships to the more comfortable relationships, slaves fled that arrangement where they had no freedom, risked their lives, risked the lives of those who helped them to be free. The human condition desires freedom. When we get comfortable, sometimes we forget, and some people forget for the rest of their lives, and that's really sad, and we see a lot of that right now. But the human condition desires freedom. And with the Underground Railroad, when you went into that system, you had no idea who you were going to see. Am I going to see Ken? Am I going to see John? Am I going to see Trisha along the way? You wouldn't know. You just had a code to follow. And you had to have faith that those people would be willing to help you. Harriet Tubman was an amazing person. She was the evangelist for the Underground Network. She was passionate about not only her own freedom, but getting other people to freedom. And some people didn't like that, right? So she would disguise herself as a really old lady and get away with it. Like, so if you start reading the stories of what she did, you start seeing how creativity links underground networks to the world. Another example of an underground network that I like to talk about is Prague Spring. Who's heard about what that is? Prague Spring. This was under the Eastern Bloc, and in the 60s there was a music festival. The government allowed a music festival to happen, and allowed whatever to happen to be played, because under communism there's acceptable music and there's unacceptable music. There is acceptable poetry, unacceptable poetry. There's acceptable art, unacceptable art. And the cool thing about Prague Spring is that festival happened and the government said, oh shit, we can't let this go. We can't let this go. And they did not empower additional festivals, but relationships were made. Poets started writing poetry, musicians started writing songs, and they figured out that they could type up newsletters with just the poems that were not allowed to be published. And they could give a newsletter to you. And you had a typewriter. Not everybody had a typewriter. Typewriters were controlled, because if you control the typewriter, you control what gets written and what people can read. Plus, they're probably expensive. And if you do not carefully control that, people might get messages out to each other that you do not like, right? You have a typewriter, you type up 10 of them by hand, spread them out, and spread them out. This is called Tommy stuff. That's what that newsletter was. And that's how people got access to art, to stories, to poetry that criticized the current government. And then it changed over time. And they could control. This is like a great example of decentralized communications, right? There's nobody in charge. The only thing is you get a newsletter and it has a few instructions on what you do to spread it, and you have no idea who started it. It just comes out. They started reporting without opinion on what was happening in their areas. If a family was arrested, they would say, the police came and arrested that family. We haven't seen them for a month. We don't know why. They would say there was a protest with this many people and they got beat up. Just neutral reporting, and it spread. Samizdat is that same newsletter that made it out of the Eastern Bloc to the Western culture. And that's where we started hearing about what was really going on behind that barrier, behind the Iron Curtain, right? That's how we started hearing it. It was just balanced reporting, but that was enough to put pressure back on the abuses that were happening. And what happened in 1989 after Ronald Reagan gave his speech at the Berlin Wall?
The wall came down.
Was it 88 or 89? 89. Wall came down. But before the wall came down, the wall was already down, right? Who was alive during this time? Do you remember what was happening before the wall came down?
Lots of alerts.
Lots of alerts. People were driving their cars over the border into the West and nobody was shooting them. The people made the decision. And that's what we have to remember. We all get scared about what's going on in our culture right now. And I agree, it's fucked up. But we're the people. They can't make all of us do it, what they want, can they? And it's your choice how you stand up, when you stand up. And who's shown that recently? Which underground network has a face right now that we can see that's making more of a difference in rolling back COVID regs than anybody else? The truckers, honk honk. Yeah. Honk honk. I apparently can't say honk honk on Facebook anymore.
Oh, good Lord.
We're gonna fact check that, lady. A goose goes honk honk, I'm just saying.
Mostly false.
Unloose it. Unloose that goose. Yeah, truckers are a brilliant network for this. Truckers are some of the smartest people and most well-informed people in our country. Everybody thinks of them as dumb hicks, don't they? We're talking about guys who drive a truck all day long and have nothing better to do than get a university-grade education from audiobooks, to listen to podcasts and to talk to each other about what's really going on. Truckers are awesome. and they're big and hard to move, and other truckers have to move their trucks. So then that's it. If the other truckers don't want to move the truck, what are you going to do? Like kick it? I got a Mitsubishi Mighty Max from the 80s. We'll see if I can just pull that out of the way. Yeah, truckers started, and the way it went down in Canada, if you look at that, it wasn't a top-down organized thing. That was an underground network. They're like, hey, why don't we do this thing? And it just exploded, and it happened really quickly, and it was done. Now, I know there's a trucker protest scheduled for here. I have made sure I have enough supplies on hand, because if we don't have truckers, what don't we have at the grocery store? Anything. Right? But I do wonder, because we've had such a big lead time on that, how big it will be. Does that make it bigger or small? Because you see what our government's doing right now under the threat of a trucker protest. Right. Oh, maybe we don't need those mandates. It's safe for now. Kids can go back to school. Have you seen that going on?
Yeah.
It's not pandemic, it's endemic. Just the threat of the people standing up makes a difference.
And they're full memory.
Yeah. French resistance. Who's heard of the French resistance, World War II? You know how that went down, right? The Nazis. Does anybody like the Nazis? No. Nobody likes the Nazis. The Nazis came to France and thought, we need work, so we're going to make your youth work for us, your young men. And they were like, but we don't like the Nazis. And this wasn't like labor camp work. This was just, we're going to force them to work in our factories to help us get equipped for war. So you know what the young men did? They ran off into the scrub and hid so they couldn't be forced to work. And that was the foundation of the French Revolution, or the French resistance. And then they're like, well, we're bored out here, so, you know, supply chains and trains bring in some of those supplies for the weapons they're making or whatever. We'll just occasionally blow one of those up when we know it's coming. You know how they got the intelligence for that? Women. Women were less suspected by the Nazis than men. So they were the gray man. They could go in and figure it out, report back, and then there would be disruptions. What really brought the French resistance to organization was a set of principles that a lawyer, I can't remember his name, figured out that fit on a business card. These are the principles we espouse. That's all, a card. From that moment, they got more and more powerful. They recruited people. They figured out how to disrupt what was going on in their country. And they were instrumental in the fall. When we were going to storm Normandy, there were signals being sent out by them over the radio waves that made no sense to anybody else, but there was a code. And people who knew the code knew the code. Let's talk about codes. What's this? Combat cop. If you were driving in California and you see one of these at a rest area, are you going to talk to that person?
Yep.
Why? One of us. This is a code, guys. This combat cop, and they are for sale back there. This combat cop is a code. When I'm at an event and I see somebody in a t-shirt, and it's one of these t-shirts, I know not only can I go up and talk to that person, we have something in common. I'm fairly confident if I actually need help, I'm going to talk to that person. I was at Spirko's workshop, there was somebody in an SOE shirt, and I was like, hey, can I stay at your place on my way home? Sure. That's how that works. It's a code. This code is a front-facing public code, right? We see it on the internet. We hear John Willis talking, he has opinions. He makes us laugh. He makes us think. But there's another network here, and that's the underground faceless network. That's the people who know where to find the lidocaine. That's the people who know how to get moonshine. Those people are not public-facing people. It's the people who can rescue two ladies from New Jersey when they crack down on y'all. We gotta get you down here. Maybe some children too. There's another network here, and the more we need it, the more the roles become clarified. And you know the best way to set up a network? The best way to develop trust is how?
Face to face.
Face to face, but what do I do face to face?
Communicate.
Commerce. People keep asking me, hey, can I set up my little thing and show people stuff, or can I sell stuff here? And I'm like, sure. Where should I set up? Well, if you're selling something, find a place in there. I don't want to get in anybody's way. Dude, this is anarchy right now. We are doing anarchy here. This is self-organized anarchy. People are afraid of anarchy. They think of people in like black hoods beating people up, right? No. Commerce. The free market is what establishes trust. It's what establishes connection. The first way John Willis and I got to know each other was he bought coffee for me, right? I mean, we knew of each other. He bought coffee. I came out, did a tasting, set up a deal. He had enough faith to order coffee and believe I would deliver it. Did I deliver it? That was the first chink of some trust. Was it this much trust? It was this much trust. She did what she said she was going to do. Okay. Is she going to do what she says she's going to do? I'm doing the same thing. Did his check bounce? Nope, didn't bounce. Commerce is how we start. And we've got all these vendors back there selling things. Go buy their things. Go sell yours. Go trade. Go barter. Who here doesn't have something for sale with them? Could you sell something here?
Me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She could sell a motorcycle today, right?
I could.
Yeah.
She had them.
Hands up again. Doesn't have something for sale. Trisha, come here. Trisha, what is your expertise?
Writer, director, producer.
Do you know how to run video?
Yes.
Does anybody here need to talk about how to organize some sort of a video? Oh, look. She has something to sell. Thank you. Hands up again. I see a hand, I don't see a face. What's your name? Wilson. Wilson, what do you do?
I work on
Oh, where?
Tupelo,
Tupelo,
Mississippi.
Mississippi. Organic produce farm. Anybody here from Mississippi? Are you anywhere near Tupelo?
About an hour.
About an hour away. Would you maybe want some produce?
Sometimes, yeah.
Look, you got something for sale. Anybody here want to know how to start an organic produce farm or a market garden? Raise your hands. You've got something to sell. Let's talk about the selling of it. Sometimes we have something for free. I have free coffee at the Hollow Roast booth, by the way. Help yourself. Is that coffee really free?
Nope.
Nope, why not?
Costs you money.
You want to get us hooked on it.
I want to
so
get you
buy
hooked on it so you buy my coffee. But also, what else am I buying with free coffee? Goodwill. Sometimes we advise on market gardens, and what we're really selling is a relationship. It doesn't always have to be US dollars, right? Or cryptocurrency. I take crypto, by the way. Yeah. Now, back during the shutdowns, I came here and I talked to John Willis the first time, and appliances were really hard to find. You know what he said? You need a fridge? I know where you can get a fridge. John Willis always knows where I can get something. I said, oh really? Where? Commercial fridges aren't sold out. You just got to spend more on them, Nicole. Yeah. That fridge, that's your underground network. That's knowledge too. We find knowledge from each other. So how do they work? With the yin and the yang of underground networking. SOE's network, in, based. It's public. If somebody's going to be targeted, it's you, right? He's an evangelist. He's willing to take that risk. So what's the darker, more hidden side of that? Who has an example from SOE? John, do you have an example? Things that happen that are not above board
I
necessarily?
don't know where you're going with it.
Just the faceless. You're the face. That's one side. There's another side where things happen that maybe not everybody needs to know about.
Well, yeah, that's, I mean, everybody has, we don't want them to know about it right now.
Right. Okay, so you guys get my point, right?
Back page.
I'm just gonna posit that if you buy something with cash today, that might be part of the faceless network.
Yeah, so silver, gold, I mean, just other kinds of currency that are not taxable. It's upon you to declare them.
Right. Something I do is I sell chickens that I've butchered. Technically, this is legal in Tennessee. This is not legal everywhere. But if I get to know people here, I might also sell pork.
Ooh.
Or not.
You would never violate the law.
I would never violate the law. Somebody else might, though. Somebody else might.
Just buy some coffee off you, but it might come with some.
Yeah. Free pork with your coffee. Coffee is now $50 a pound. That's the underground networks at work. So the face network, this is the face network. Faceless network is that card of principles that the French resistance had. It's that thing that organizes us that we just know. And when you see this, you may know that those principles exist, right? Because that is a clue.
You got lots of clocks and stuff?
Yeah. There are roles in an underground network. I started really looking at this. The first role is the traveler. The truckers are travelers. It's like your bard, right? If you think about what bards used to do, travel around and spread stories and songs, and built into the stories and songs are information. Follow the drinking gourd during the Underground Railroad is thought to have been, but not proven, but we basically think it is, was an indication of if the gourd is pointing this way, it's safe. If the drinking gourd is pointed that way, it's not safe. If you don't know the code, you don't know the code. If you know the code, though, you know the code. So the traveler spreads the information. The traveler brings goods from one place to another. The traveler, the bard, is one role. How many travelers do we have here? Who's a traveler? We got travelers right there. Yeah, you guys are travelers. Anybody else? What do you do for traveler?
I'm a home health nurse.
Home health nurse. And okay. The other role is the trader. John Willis is a trader. I'm a trader. How many traders we got here? If you have something for sale, you're a trader. Do you need a traveler in your life?
Yep.
Yeah. Travelers, hands up again. We have a lot more travelers than their hands up right now, I'm just saying. I got a guy from McMinnville here. Drove all the way from McMinnville. We've got somebody from New York. Glenn, are you back there? I saw him walk in, and he may have walked out. The social capital you build helps you attract travelers. That's why we got Nick Ferguson up there. Where'd you drive from? Louisiana. We got Patrick Rohrman sharpening knives from Missouri. We got Kerry Brown, who's got car trouble, so he's not here right now. He'll be talking about permaculture tomorrow. Is that a hand up to Nick, or is that a hand up for me? Okay. And then we have the partaker. Do you know what a partaker is? You're the person, I'm a partaker. I buy the goods. You need to tap into the information that the traveler brings. So you need to tap into the goods that are for sale. If we're all working together in the underground network, you know what happens? We're stronger. When we're stronger and there's crisis and we need to rescue Glenn from New York, which is also totally going to happen, we can get his butt down here, right? And then the last is the evangelist. The evangelists take the risk. The traveler may not be overtly doing anything, or they might be an evangelist too. John's an evangelist. He's willing to put it out there. This is my opinion. Take it. Right? Or don't. But, you don't care if the government comes to take it because you said something too. I mean, you care, but you're willing to put yourself out there. How many evangelists do we have here? Right. A good evangelist does what John does. He takes his message and gets other people motivated and empowers them to be evangelists, and they empower people to be evangelists. You see how this works, right? So there's another thing that we have with underground networks, and that is a foundation from which we need to work. And the first thing I think about is communications. How do we communicate? How do we communicate right now? MeWe, Signal. We watch John on YouTube, Facebook, podcasts, Telegram, text message, Odyssey, Float the boat, F-L-O-T-E. How else do we communicate?
Text messages.
In person.
Gatherings.
What do we say in person that we don't say on phone?
A lot.
How do we find each other in person? We come to these. Do you know when the next Self-Reliance Festival is?
Yeah.
June 11th. June 11th. It's going to explode on June 11th. It's game on. Right? And the other thing is locus. Location. You end up with hubs, right? This is a hub. John has very purposely made this a hub. I notice his address is not on any website though. Is that with intention?
Oh, I don't know. I think people just aren't looking for it hard.
Okay. You have to find it on Google Maps, so you don't care if I put it on mine for the next event? Yeah.
If you're too dumb to find my address, you can't come here.
If you're too dumb to find it, you can't come here. Where else is there a locus? Living Free in Tennessee has a locus in Middle Tennessee. A couple of you, you've been there, right? These are places where you know you can go and connect with people if you need to. These are places where we gather, where we feel safe, so that we can make plans to gather where we don't feel safe, because the thing is, we can't just stay in this little bubble here. This bubble is where you get your inspiration. And then we go out and we stand, right? We stand with the truckers. We stand up for people who may not be on the same page with us philosophically, but it's not right what's being done to them. I don't have to agree with somebody 100% to support you, to support your right to make your choice to do what you want to do. I don't care. Get a jab, don't get a jab, I don't care. Make a choice, and don't make me do it. That's what I care about. Leave me the fuck alone. That's what I care about.
Amen.
That's right.
And the best thing about Locus is this is where we get to learn skills, right? Where we get to learn skills. How does that work online? How does that work online? How do we establish Locus online? Do we set up a Facebook page about a trucker rally and not have a backup plan? Facebook takes it down? I know exactly why that happened, and I don't think anybody's dumb for doing that. It sounds like I think somebody's dumb. I do not. What I think is they used the tool they knew how to use. And it got momentum, and as my friend Jack Spirko said, they waited till it got really big and then they pulled the plug. Because that company is intentionally being disruptive to people who want to do something really simple. And that is stand on their own 2 feet, take care of themselves and their family and their friends, and live their lives without harming anybody else. How could that be offensive? It's not offensive, but they're trying to make us think it is. They're trying to double talk. They're trying to change the narrative. They're trying to say black is white and white is black. And that's not okay. And when somebody makes you feel intimidated by telling you that that's wrong, that's morally wrong, flip it on them. Start saying, what is your morals? Like a friend of mine on Facebook the other day compared abortion to mandates. Yeah. Right. But it was sort of the opposite thing. A women's right, my body, my choice. And I was like, well, if that's true, then mandates are not okay. She's like, no, that's different because it's contagious. Pregnancy is not contagious? It's just not as contagious, right? It's going to have to happen there. Well, it disproportionately affects poor people that abortions are banned because rich people can get them. Mandates aren't exactly the same.
Right, you have to have the shot to get your job.
It totally disproportionately is impacting people who actually need their job every week. People are like, I got savings, whatever, I'm out. I'll build my own business. John, I'm pretty sure, has never even worried about his boss giving him a mandate to get a shot. Have you? No. No. Don't let them intimidate you. That is their game. And they don't know what to do when you smile and say, well, this is the consistent thing. The next thing they do is what? You're a racist.
White supremacist.
We're going to talk about racism later today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you disagree with the left, you're racist.
They go after your credibility. Yeah, you didn't pay your tax bill back in 1988, man. Can't trust that person. Plant porn on your computer and arrest you, right? King porn.
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yes, they do.
But they can't stand up to the moral argument.
And that wasn't me, by the way. She pointed at me. I didn't.
He's planting porn on my computer. No, they will go after you if you hit a chord. You see what they're doing to truckers now? I cackle every morning when I read about it.
Right.
They're like, we're going to arrest them. And they did.
Sure did.
Are there still people there?
Yeah.
It's really hard to win the public opinion on something that is so simple. I was like, why is Black Lives Matter different? I was just thinking about this. And the biggest difference I see is the truckers are like, end the mandates. That's our thing. It's reasonable. It's simple. It's not judging whether or not somebody wear a mask or not, or somebody get a shot or not. End the mandates. A lot of those guys are vaccinated, but they don't think you should be forced. Super simple, and there's a moral foundation there that's valid, right? People will do all sorts of mental gymnastics to go the other way, but basically there's a moral foundation, and when you look around, you start realizing, despite all the polling, most people are basically not willing to put their neck out, but they don't want to see it. And then they've done something very simple by parking big heavy things in the way. What are you going to do? Right? Black Lives Matter, they were demanding more and more and more and more. It became more and more complex.
Funded by George Soros.
Well, I believe that movement started organically. And it was taken over, like the Tea Party.
Yep.
I was at the second Tea Party, and it still hadn't been taken over, and within a month, operatives were in there messing it up, and it totally turned into something not okay, right? But it started being used as a political tool to further control. That's the difference. Truckers have kept it simple, and they're not wavering. And I hope they keep doing that. I hope they keep doing that. So why are we talking about all this here? Because I have homework for you. I always give homework, right, Rosie? Is Rosie still out here? She's probably over blacksmithing. Connect with people here. You know people. Some of you know people here. You came here knowing people, right? Connect with at least 2 or 3 new people. Find out where they're from. Find out why they came here. Find out what they love to do. Find out what they love to do. Let them find that out about you. Maybe out of those 3 people, one of them will be something you kind of connect with. Last event, Rosie, who works here, was fascinated by the blacksmithing demonstration. And this time, you know where she is? Giving blacksmithing demo. Because she found something she didn't know that she loved. So find people. Find out what they care about. So connect. 2, Build trust and transact with them, whether that be giving advice on how to start a market garden, buying some beard oil, whatever it is, getting a really nice combat cop, which is for sale in the back. You don't already have one. And then pay it forward. Be willing to share your knowledge. A lot of people here think I don't know anything. I mean, I've only been raising chickens 5 years. I've only treated all of the first stage injuries in chickens that ever come up. You think you don't know something. If you're that person, I see some nodding. Think back, like, what do I do every day that I love? Is it cooking? Talk about your cooking. Is it raising chickens? You may not know everything, but you know something. Start talking about that. Don't be the guy who's like, I just started learning how to do this, but I feel awkward because I'm not an expert at it. Fuck that. You know something, be open to if somebody knows something more to learn from them, and talk about it, and you will find yourself in a totally different realm by a couple of months from now when we're back here in June. And then, this is something that I didn't say before when I talked about underground networking, because I didn't realize how fast this was going to melt down for us. Communications. Let's talk about communications. Facebook is not a good place to be your sole connection to everybody here. Why? Why?
Surveillance.
Surveillance. What else?
Shadow banning.
How many people have lost their Facebook account completely in the last year?
I ain't lost it, but restrictions.
Restrictions? How many restricted?
All the time.
If my only way to reach you is Facebook, and I get kicked off Facebook and you don't know about my other one that I never log into from the same IP address or device, just in case you want to know how they are able to find both. I can't get in contact with you. So get real contact information. Get phone numbers. It's okay to write a letter. Get addresses if you want. Share your Telegram. Connect on other things. Any of those can be shut off, by the way. But if you have multiples, they have to figure them out. That's your homework. Comments and questions. Willis.
Hey, all you guys, I heard a bunch of you yell out Signal. Imagine this. What if the feds, the FBI, actually designed the Signal app? And what if all you guys told all your friends that Signal is secure and it can't be hacked, and you guys are having communications that you wouldn't want to put out public, but there is a record? You need to maneuver on any electrical device as though there is a record of everything you say. Every single keystroke is kept somewhere. It's just who wants you and how much money they're willing to spend to get you. They don't have to come after you for ABC. They will come under the guise of ABC and then find XYZ. I was on CNN for 3 days in a row. I was at the federal search warrant. I had 12 agencies. We had the zoo at my place, and animal control, and zoning, and the FBI, and everybody. I know what that looks like. Do not trust any of those devices. And what is legal today might not be legal in 2 years. So if you have some kind of idea that what you're doing might be an issue, be very careful about how you do that. Because you might not be doing anything that's illegal, but if you get the wrong guy's hackles up, they will spend the money and they will find something on every single one of you. Just know that.
Yeah, the Amish have it right. Separate from the technology. Yeah.
Central Alabama Freedom Cell and Northern Alabama Freedom Cell, we're going to have a mega cell merger at lunchtime at the pole barn. And so anyone else that's in that general vicinity, that's where we're going to be.
Speaking of underground networking, that's an underground network. There are multiple underground networks here. Any other questions or comments before we move on to the next thing? Yeah, come on up.
Be careful, even when, how many of us, when we say something, like we don't have our phones by us, and you go on your phone and it's like Amazon, you're like talking about a microwave and you get 30 ads for something else.
You will today.
All of our phones are talking to each other.
That's right.
You want to have a real conversation, put that phone away. Walk out in the woods, put that phone away. Every one of us, every one of these phones are all dinging, talking to each other, even though we're not on. Just be careful.
Anything network, all your smart TVs do the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yep. And you may not even know you have a smart device. Huh?
I don't take my phone to work.
You worked for Facebook. Okay, so there you go.
Like, no. So they're actually growing.
Yeah.
They're building a data center in Dallas, Tennessee. Like, they bought 900 acres. And I mean, it's massive. It's,
Yeah.
I'm an electrician. No one goes to the car alarm and stuff. This thing is massive. It's huge. You have people walking around with GoPros on their helmets and face cam every single day. And I've got my own number and all that. It's wild. It's crazy stuff.
Yep.
And there's 13 of them. There's no quality right now. It's very sad. It's growing. It's doing massive.
So if they wanted a catalog,
Yeah. Your information, MeWe is a lot like Facebook, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What?
So I got something to go off of what Don's saying. Code talking, knowing certain individuals, finding out certain language. Found out recently about a Facebook group that actually started here by where I'm at for firearms. It's called Bake Thing. Yeah, both say I got a recipe. Look for a couple ingredients. Find the right person, meet up the person, get together, make the bread.
Yeah. Code talking is a thing, and we may have to talk in code more than we have been.
John.
But if you're not going to talk in code, talk in person.
Yeah, man, I'm talking about Willis, one of the realest to try. My family, SOE, got the tools to survive. Yeah.